We developers are all very different. Some like CSS, others enjoy tinkering with the latest JavaScript framework. Some prefer aesthetics and hence enjoy skillfully designed websites. Others prefer building unique user experience all the way from the ground. But no matter our differences, there is one thing that we all share in common. We all want to be professional in whatever we are doing. We want to be successful, aren't we? That's exactly why we come to the conferences like this one. But some of us take this wish way too serious. In 1982, physician Robert Goldman posed a question to elite athletes in power and combat sports that was something like this. If I had a magic drug that was so fantastic that if you took it once, you would win every competition you would enter, from the Olympic decathlon to the Mr. Universe for the next 5 years. But it had one minor drawback. It would kill you 5 years after you took it. Would you still take it? More than 50% of the respondents said yes, they would still take this drug. People were willing to trade their lives for 5 years of success. Puzzled with this result, Goldman repeated this experiment for 13 years more, many more times. And all these years, during 13 years, the results were consistent. People were willing to trade their lives for 5 years of success. We developers, of course, are not athletes. Frankly, a lot of us are as far from sports as it can possibly be. But still, this drug doesn't exist. So we all have to find our own way to success. Thankfully, this drug doesn't exist. We all have our own way to success, but still, on these ways that we all have different, we meet common obstacles that are common to all of us. And exactly about these obstacles I want to talk to you about today. We will try to see what are those, we will try to analyze them, and hopefully we'll find some solution for those. A lot of modern physicists claim that the universe around us is nothing more than just a huge computer simulation. So we all are just part of a computer program. Let's assume this is correct. So let's try to imagine how would an average developer would look like in the form of a JavaScript program. So it all starts like this. We are just born. Life starts. Then we grow up, we develop, and then at some point, we get our first book on web development. In my case, it was Designing with Web Standards, the first edition by Jeffrey Zeldman. When we're done with this book, we feel excited. We want to go on. And then at some point, we build our first project. Probably for ourselves, maybe for a friend. Probably it was shitty, and probably you didn't get paid. But still, you felt that you want to do this. You want to go on, and you want to find a job in web. And you get it. Probably at first it's a junior, or maybe normal developer. Then you go to senior, and you go on and develop. But something goes wrong. Take a look at our dev tools. We start getting errors. These are the errors we meet on our way to professional future. And as any developer, we know that when we meet an error, we have to debug it, right? So let's take a look at what these errors are. There are just 3 of them now, but let's pick them one by one. The first one is perfectionism. Before we begin, let me show you just some pictures. I won't say anything, just take a look at the pictures. I will let you take a closer look at this one. This is pure mental masochism. So, based on the reaction you have, I suppose that you're like me. You consider yourself a perfectionist, even though this is not a scientific test, of course. I still remember in 2013, when a company I was working at back then was about to merge with another company. I had a conversation with my back then boss about my style of work and how this merge might affect this style of work. Dennis, he said, your style is like champagne. It's well thought, long processed, and high quality. The style of the company we are about to merge with is more like Prosecco. It's faster, cheaper, and usually not as high quality. We both know that. But when people pour both drinks in the glasses at a party, most can't tell the difference anyway. Even though this company later decided that their front-end works on unicorns fighting magic, and they don't need front-end developer at all, I still remember that dialogue because it nicely illustrates the difference of how the work of perfectionists and non-perfectionists is perceived by normal people. And yes, I used to think about myself as perfectionist, but whether we want it or not, perfectionists are a completely different breed when it comes to work. Non-perfectionists, or let's call them normal people, consider work as just like that, work. Perfectionists take work as a way to express ourselves. We take it as a personal challenge. We spend as much time as we need in order to get the perfect result. We don't notice any obstacles, any restrictions, any deadlines before we get to the perfect state. Criticism. Criticism is the worst enemy of a perfectionist. And perfectionist does everything that he can in order to avoid even slight hint of a criticism. And when the work is done as intended by a perfectionist, this work can truly shine. So why exactly perfectionism is marked as a bug in our system? Don't get me wrong, perfectionism is really great. But now psychologists say about two different types of perfectionism. First one is positive, or healthy perfectionism. The other one is obviously not negative or unhealthy perfectionism. Positive perfectionism helps us achieve outstanding results in whatever we have passion for. This is the moving force of a lot of industries. It's wonderful, for example, when your dentist is perfectionist, or an architect that built the house you're living in, or an engineer at the airplane playing fabrics, right? But, for example, great that Steve Jobs was perfectionist. Even now, the whole industry of laptops, mobile phones, and tablets is compared to what his company has achieved many years ago. With his attitude to details, Steve Jobs set the bar for the whole industry. But there is a pattern here. Perfectionism is always good when you are a consumer. Though, as controversial as it might sound, when you create things, perfectionism can really stand in your way. And it can affect your style, and it can affect the quality of your work. The same Steve Jobs, as classical example of perfectionism, right, was a very hard person to work with. For example, in 1977, when he had to pick the color for the case for his new Apple II computer, Pantone Company sent him 2,000 shades of beige. Not 2, not 20, not 200, 2,000 shades of beige. None were good enough for Steve Jobs. He desperately wanted to develop his own perfect beige color for his perfect computer. He was so obsessed with this idea that Apple's CEO back then, Michael Scott, had to interfere and stop Jobs from doing this. Moreover, when we talk about negative perfectionism, perfectionists can get really aggressive when somebody challenges their way of thinking or their style of work. And as an example, I will show you a clip from a well-known sitcom Silicon Valley that nicely illustrates this problem. So take your popcorn and enjoy.
Richard, what's wrong?
Nothing. Nothing. Literally, it's all good. Come on.
Oh my god, your roommates are right. You really hate spaces.
No. I don't. It's not hate. Hate's a strong word. Truth be told, I do have a slight preference for tabs, but that's only because I'm anal and because I prefer precision.
Well, not to pick a fight here, but if you really care about precision, wouldn't you use spaces? But whatever. Once it goes through the compiler, it's the same thing, right?
Yeah, Yeah, technically, yes. I guess I just don't understand why anyone would use spaces over tabs. Like if it's all the same, well, why not just use tabs?
Because it could look different on other people's computers.
Tabs create smaller file sizes. All right, I run a compression company. Trust me, I've devoted my life to minimalizing file sizes. It's what I do. I mean, I do not get why anyone would use spaces over tabs. I mean, why not just use Vim over Emacs?
I do use them over email.
Oh, God help us.
This is really funny, isn't it? But negative perfectionism can take different shapes in our day-to-day job. But there are three very typical ones that we are going to talk about now. So the first one is perfectionist paralysis. We all are familiar with procrastination, right? But different people procrastinate due to different reasons. Some are just tired, some want to switch context and do something light on the brain. Perfectionists procrastinate for another reason. They're waiting for an ideal moment to start their ideal work. Well, at least that's how perfectionists think about this. In reality, they don't start working because of fear. Fear to not achieve the perfect result at the end. And this fear is so strong that perfectionists try to think about all possible problems that this project might have in the future, even though these problems didn't appear yet. This process overcomplicates even the simplest task. And obviously enough, perfectionists need some time in order to sink this in and to get ready to fight all these monsters. But usually, this ideal moment never comes before it's too late. But let's assume miracles happen, and you've got your ideal moment, or simply a deadline is knocking at your door, right? So you have to start working. And here we meet another problem of negative perfectionism that I call picking a detail. Perfectionists, due to the wish to finish every task they're working with the perfect result, split job in small tasks, so small that they would be guaranteed to finish them with perfect result. And while working with these small tasks, they completely lose focus and information about the surrounding project that this small task still lives in. But again, let's say you have a wonderful project manager who is familiar with your style and reminds you from time to time about deadlines and delivering the result. So at the end, you are ready to deliver the project. And here we meet the third problem. That is called unnecessary task, or as I call it, cherry on top. When you are ready to deliver a project, a product, a feature, whatever, an evil idea comes to your mind. This thing can be improved a bit. And you start with just taking a look. And then another idea comes. It's easy. Shouldn't take more than 10-15 minutes. And you dive deeper and deeper and deeper. And then you end up spending the whole day for something that adds no value to the project at best. At worst, you just run git reset hard because the project becomes behaving unpredictably or the feature is completely broken. And only then you realize how stupid this day was. So we see that there are problems we have because of negative perfectionism in our work. So we have to do something because they bring an enormous amount of stress to us, to those we work with, and to those who dare to live with us. We have to do something with this, but what exactly? Is the answer to stop being a perfectionist? Thankfully not. What we have to do instead is learn ourselves to convert this obsession-driven negative perfectionism into positive perfectionism. What does it mean? Let me tell you a story. At the age of almost 40, before establishing one of the largest and most profitable companies in the world, Henry Ford had already established 2 other car companies and failed with both of them. Moreover, the management of the second one had to push Ford off the company that he himself established only 4 months ago. A lot of sources attribute these failures to Ford's craving for perfectionism. Because, for example, the story of the second company, the one that is now known as Cadillac, tells that they had to fire Ford because he was constantly working on improving the design of the car, ignoring any deadlines, and postponing the production of the real car. But in spite of the craving for perfectionism from Ford, early cars of his third company, the one that is now known as Ford Motor Company, were just on par with the competitors. Neither better nor worse. They were just average. Because of this, Ford insisted on delaying production of these cars before they get perfected. At this moment, the investors had enough of Ford, so they said no, and insisted on implementing the paradigm, make sell now, fix them later. Had it not been for the healthy attitude to perfectionism of investors of Ford, the world might have never heard about Henry Ford. He would have never been able to finish this car, push it into production, and most probably would push his third company off the bridge, as he did with two previous companies. In order to give you a better overview of what is positive perfectionism and negative perfectionism in our work, consider these two statements. The first one, my product should be perfect. I'm not going to release, develop a feature, commit before I'm sure it is perfect. And another one, my product should be perfect. And this release, feature, commit moves me one step closer to this perfect result. With this example, it's easy to see how unhealthy perfectionism attitude can be totally wrong in our work. So the only solution to this is to actually embrace imperfection. We should accept the fact that our projects can live in alpha, in beta, in 0.1, in any version. They should not be perfect from day one. They might be even incomplete. Because if we don't embrace imperfection, it forces us to stay up to date with everything that goes on in our industry in order for us to understand what is perfect and what is not. And if we keep doing this, we tend to fall under our next bug. Problem of our system. The problem that is common for actors like Meryl Streep, Jodie Foster, Tom Hanks, singers like Chris Martin of Coldplay, Lady Gaga, scientists like Albert Einstein, and a lot of you in this room, I'm sure, including me. The imposter phenomenon. What? You might have asked yourself. What imposter phenomenon? Indeed, this is the topic that is not very much spoken about in our community. Nevertheless, scientific research shows that 2 out of 5 successful people suffer from this phenomenon. And almost 70% of general population actually experienced it at least once in their life. So it's quite wide application of this phenomenon. So what is this? Let me just start with asking you 3 questions. You don't need to answer in voice or raise your hand if you don't want to, just answer internally. But I will answer with you as well. So, have you ever felt that you are not as skilled as anyone around you? Have you ever considered the success you gained in something is attributed to timing or luck or any other side force other than your hard work, talent, or intelligence? Have you ever thought that everyone around you is smarter and you just don't belong to where you are? So those who didn't raise the hands but still answered yes internally, welcome to the club. The club of imposters. And I must congratulate all of you because you are in a good company. You think, why would anyone want to see me again in a movie? And I don't know how to act anyway, so why am I doing this? Meryl Streep, actress, 389 nominations, 156 wins, 3 Oscars as Best Actress. I always feel like something of an imposter. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not a writer. I've been fooling myself and other people. John Steinbeck, writer, 27 books, Pulitzer Prize for Fiction, Nobel Prize in Literature. I still doubt myself every single day. What people believe is my self-confidence is actually my reaction to fear. Will Smith, actor, musician, 6 American Music Awards, 4 Grammys, 2 Oscar nominations as Best Actor. So, imposter phenomenon is actually the feeling of you feeling a fraud despite all evidence to contrary. It's an inability to internalize your own achievements that leads you to feeling of being less competent than the rest of the world believes you to be. Funny enough, it's really hard to spot imposter phenomenon in others, because those who experience it do really well in their job. I'm pretty sure that a lot of you now think, oh, this sounds familiar, but I didn't even know that this feeling has a name. But it does, and quite established one. The first appearance of the term imposter phenomenon, or imposter syndrome, or imposterism, these are all the same, occurred in 1978 in the work by Pauline Clance and Susan Imes, dedicated to high-achieving women in academics. That's true. For many years, scientific community believed that imposter phenomenon is largely confined to high-achieving women. But the very same researchers now begin to realize that the feeling like a fraud is much more universal feeling and might be even more dangerous for men, because it's naturally hard for men to confess in feelings like insecurity or incompetence. So men hide their fears and they are unable to unburden themselves and seek help. But what happens if we feel this imposter syndrome and don't do anything with this, or simply don't know about its existing? Our industry is quite interesting place. It's very easy to self-criticize, because when you work on a problem and you start searching for some possible solutions of similar problems, you might find out that exactly the same problem has been fixed by many more people before you. In environments like this, it's really easy to feel not as skilled as the rest of your environment. In order to fix this, what we usually do is we try to catch up with everything going on in our industry. We start reading articles and different tweets and things so that we gain this self-confidence again, right? I'm pretty sure that this feeling is very familiar to all of you. Could I please ask you to raise your hands if you have ever been to a conference with multiple tracks, like today, for example, and you wanted to talk different talks in the same time slot? Pretty much all of us, right? But I'm sure that the moment you picked the talk and went to it, you constantly have this feeling like, damn, maybe there is more valuable information for me happening in that talk that I didn't pick. This is what's happening. But maybe it happens to you this very moment and you want it to be in another room. Maybe. But I must confess, I experienced imposter syndrome way too often in my professional life, including development and public speaking. Almost a couple of years ago, I had several applications to read functionality in my iPhone, like Flipboard, Pocket, and so on. So they were constantly bringing me latest news from our industry, from the world of development, and I had to read all of them. Moreover, I was constantly monitoring Twitter, Smashing Magazine, Net Magazine, different blogs, and so on and so on. But speaking of Twitter, reading Twitter is quite frustrating on its own, because when you see so many talented people bragging about their achievements, this might really make you feel not as skilled as the rest of the community. But my story doesn't end there. I was constantly reading RSS feeds, different email subscriptions like JavaScript Weekly, HTML Weekly. I was constantly monitoring talks from different technical talks and TED Talks. But in all this flow of information, I still had to do work that paid my bills, right? So one day, I figured out that I don't read these articles anymore. On the best days, I could just glance the titles, pick some, open the tabs, and those tabs would stay untouched and unread for days in my browser. Why did it happen? Why didn't I feel myself more skilled after reading all those articles or getting all that information? Why did it go so badly? The answer is that it was not me willing to get all this information. It was my imposter syndrome pushing me to get all this information so that I wouldn't feel myself an incompetent fraud. What imposter phenomenon or imposter syndrome really does instead of pushing you to learn more and be more professional in your career, it pushes you into the state of frustration. This is how an average developer, modern developer, looks like. I call him stress man. Constantly sleepy, constantly drinking coffee, and figuring out 10 JavaScript frameworks. And those 10 are just those that have been released during the last 24 hours. This is the stress man. But I have good news for everybody who experienced this imposter phenomenon. The irony of this phenomenon is that true frauds and true idiots never experience it. As English philosopher Bertrand Russell puts it, the trouble with the world is that the stupid are cocksure and the intelligent are full of doubt. So the first thing to resist your imposter syndrome is actually to embrace imposterism. As Pacific Standard Magazine puts it, imposterism is for many people a natural symptom of gaining expertise. And while you are gaining expertise, you enhance the knowledge, you enhance the perimeter of what you know, while exposing yourself to even more of what you don't know. So next time when you feel like you're lagging behind the industry, you don't know everything that goes on in the industry, or you're afraid of your colleagues figuring out that you're not as smart as they thought, instead of getting more information and raising the bar of your knowledge, just stop. Stop for a moment and enjoy it. Because most probably this means you're on the right path. Most probably this means that you are getting wisdom to accept that there is much more in the world in general, and in our industry in particular, for us to discover yet. And I deliberately say that most probably, because some confuse stupid bravery to expertise, and this is a completely different story. So the second advice to resist our imposter syndrome is measure yourself with your own yardstick. In our industry, it's very easy to be consumed by the success of other people. But comparing yourself to others is the game impossible to win. Instead, try to compete with yourself. Try to analyze yourself. Where were you a year ago, 6 months ago? Can you see the difference? Can you see the progress? Can you acknowledge that progress? If you start thinking about your achievements in this way, it will give you much better information about your own achievements rather than achievements of others. But the third advice to resist your imposter syndrome that might be even more important than the previous two is communicate your fears. Do not be afraid to talk about your feelings. Neil Gaiman, award-winning fiction author, novelist, comic books, and movies, has a fantastic anecdote to suit anybody with the imposter syndrome. Some years ago, I was lucky enough to be invited to a gathering of great and good people, artists and scientists, writers and discoverers of the things. And I felt that at any moment, they would realize that I didn't qualify to be there among these people who had really done things. On my second or third night there, I was standing at the back of the hall while a musical entertainment happened, and I started talking to a very nice, polite elderly gentleman about several things, including our shared first name. And then he pointed to the whole of the people and said words to the effect of, I just look at all these people and I think, what the heck am I doing here? They have made amazing things. I just went where I was sent. And I said, yes, but you were the first man on the moon. I think that counts for something. And I felt a bit better, because if Neil Armstrong felt like an imposter, maybe everyone did. So if we talk about our feelings, our imposterism, more often, it will help us all overcome the complications it brings to our life and go on and move further. Because if we don't overcome the frustration that imposter syndrome brings to us, we tend to fall under the consequences of it, and then we work harder in order to prove ourselves, and we get straight into the third bug of our system. long hours. Well, I must admit, I have never heard anybody on the dev bat saying something like, "Oh God, why have I been working so little?" Our industry is no exception. I'm pretty sure that everybody in this room put at least one all-nighter during their career. Because industry still believes that software developers have no other hobbies than, well, software development. Moreover, people outside of our industry, no matter our main profile, still think that we are all crazy geeks drinking coffee, mixing with Red Bull during the daytime, and then hacking away on a pet project at night. And most importantly, we just love doing all this. One recruiter once told me that, in her opinion, exciting work tasks should be the main motivation for developer. Well, if exciting work tasks would be my main motivation, why would I be a developer in the first place? I would be an illustrator or a professional bike rider, but definitely I wouldn't sit at night trying to position some dummy text in some stupid block. This is not how exciting work looks like. But truth be told, long hours are not a bug per se. There are two different types of long hours, right? So the first one is temporary. Temporary long hours usually happen when you are excited about some new technology and you want to know more. You are engaged and excited about this. Another occurrence of this temporary long hours happens when around deadlines or some other important time milestones, because we all know how good we are with time estimations, right? This type of long hours is typical for somebody who we would call hard-working, engaged developer. But another type is much more permanent. It's much more dangerous. For some of us, this is just the way we work. We constantly put long, dull hours. If we talk about perfectionism and imposter syndrome as problems, their consequences bring us straight to this type of the long hours, the permanent long hours. And this type of long hours is typical for somebody we would call a workaholic. It's kind of hard to see the difference between hardworking developer and workaholic, but I like how the acknowledged author and psychotherapist Brian Robinson puts it. Usually, hardworking people have more